Earlier this week, Lucas Paqueta's hearing got underway as FA want him banned from football for life if he is found guilty of spot fixing. Our Brazilian midfielder is currently facing and fighting 6 different charges. 4 of them in relation to spot fixing, where he's accused of picking up yellow cards intentionally across 4 different Premier League games, and 2 cases where he's accused of obstructing the investigation into those cautions he received as a West Ham United player. And now we're at the end of the first week of the hearing. A few different facts have come out in regards to the investigation and why the FA believe Lucas Paqueta is guilty. We'll be running through those, and also we'll be looking ahead to next week in the hearing, where it feels like possibly quite a big one as Lucas Paqueta aims to clear his name. But if you're new to Hammers Chat, if you're new to this YouTube channel, please do subscribe and also drop a like on the video as well by clicking the thumbs up. Both things are free, takes a couple of seconds and helps the channel out massively. So a huge thank you to those who take the time to do so. Right then, I'm just going to go through the facts that have come out from the hearing in regards to the bets placed on Paqueta Island by various different people, including relatives of Lucas Paqueta, on Lucas Paqueta picking up yellow cards across 4 different games. So, of course, the 4 different games in question were against Leicester City. This yellow card is one of the ones that look a little bit iffy. He goes through Samari. He comes in slice tackle from behind, trips Samari up. The referee plays advantage. Paqueta gets up and fouls another Leicester City player. Yellow card. He also got booked against Leeds United, where, perhaps ironically, he fouled Somerville. This one looks like a very genuine booking to me. The more I watch it, the more I'm convinced it's just a normal yellow card. You see these happening week in, week out in the Premier League. West Ham are inside Leeds United's box. The ball gets cleared out. Somerville picks up. We know Somerville is rapid. He goes to take off. Paqueta trips him. Doesn't even go to ground. Stonewall yellow card. There's the one against Aston Villa where he sort of comes in from behind on John McGinn. Doesn't look great, but we've seen Paqueta do those types of fouls and pick up those bookings in games where he's not been investigated. And the one that I feel looks dodgy, but there's a lot of context to be applied to it by Paqueta's lawyers, which is against Bournemouth in stoppage time of the game. We'll get on to that one. But here are the facts. So half of the bets placed were under £50, with most bets being placed under £100. The lowest bet was £7. So the total stake that has alerted Betway to alert the authorities was a £7 stake. One of Lucas Paqueta's relatives placed a £30 bet, which was described as unusually large. And the largest bet on that's been investigated was a stake of £400. Now, also, when you're reading this and you're listening to this, you think, is that it? £7? The problem here is spot fixing is spot fixing. The sums of money are irrelevant at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter. It might give you an indication and it applies context, which is because this whole case essentially comes down to probability, not evidence. Of course, evidence is required, which makes you come to the conclusion of how likely was it Lucas Paqueta is guilty of spot fixing. So this is the context around it. And when you look at it, you think, well, that's not a lot of money. Would he really risk his career for, well, look, half the bets were under £50. It's not much money. I mean, unusually large, £30 stake. Bloody hell. I mean, I'm going to be getting investigated by Paddy Power for betting on Dan Burn to have a shot on target against Liverpool last weekend, if that's the case. No spot fixing there. But here's the context. When I seen that, obviously initially you're thinking, well, that's not much money. Would he really risk his career? So I thought context is important here. So all these bets were placed on Paqueta Island, which is obviously an island off of Rio de Janeiro. So what we need to know is, what is the average salary of Rio de Janeiro, to give you a bit of an idea. Because obviously to us, we're thinking £7's not much, £50's not much, 100, maximum stake 400. It's a lot of money to me and you perhaps, but not really in the grand scheme of things. When you think about the potential returns on that bet, I don't know, Paqueta maybe 2 to 1 at best for him to get your yellow card, so you're getting £1,200 back. Chuck in the Real Betis guy, you might be getting 3-4 grand back for that £400. It's not a huge sum of money to us. It is a lot of money, but it's not life-changing money. You know what I mean. However, now the problem is I don't know which website is incredibly reliable when it comes to reporting the average salary of countries. I don't know. I don't know where to go. I know that if I want statistics on football, I know to go to Who Scored or Football Reference or use Scout. I know where to go for reliable statistics. When it comes to average salaries of countries, don't know. So of course, I went on Google, loaded up 15 different websites maybe to see what the average salary was. And the highest salary I've seen for Rio de Janeiro, an average salary was about £12,500. Most were working out at an average salary of around about £7,000 a year, pounds sterling. And this is where context comes in. Those websites are suggesting that people in Rio de Janeiro earn about 25%, even less than that, of an average wage of someone in the United Kingdom. So if we were to multiply everything by 4 to give you a bit of an idea as to what the stakes are for Rio de Janeiro, suddenly the highest bet, while it was £400, that's the equivalent of someone in the UK placing a bet with a stake of 1,200. Then I think when you apply that context, it starts to look a little bit more worrying, perhaps. But that's the facts that have come out around the bets placed by those in Paqueta Island on Lucas Paqueta getting yellow cards in those 4 games. The bit of evidence that's come out that I think is really good for West Ham is the confirmation that Manchester City did bid 80 million for Lucas Paqueta. So at the time, 2 years ago, it was rumoured Man City wanted him, West Ham were willing to sell him, and this is why both clubs became aware of the investigation. And this has been confirmed in the hearing that essentially Manchester City made an £80 million bid for Lucas Paqueta, which West Ham accepted. And that's when the FA informed West Ham, actually, we are currently investigating Lucas Paqueta because of these yellow cards. West Ham went and informed Manchester City, and naturally they pulled out of the race to sign Lucas Paqueta. During the bid is when West Ham played Bournemouth. This is where Lucas Paqueta picked up his 4th yellow card that's been investigated when negotiations were ongoing between Manchester City and West Ham. So Paqueta picked up a booking while the FA was investigating him, whilst Manchester City were trying to sign him. And the reason I think this is good news for West Ham is that if Lucas Paqueta is found innocent, he's found not guilty, I hope West Ham go to town on the FA. I really do. I hope, and Lucas Paqueta, because his career has been flatlined. He could have got a move to the club that went on to win everything. West Ham could have got £80 million. Financially, there's been a huge loss for West Ham United and Lucas Paqueta because of this investigation. That is fact. I hope if he's found not guilty, I hope West Ham go mental on the FA. I hope they have the best legal advice possible, and I hope they take him to the cleaners, and I hope West Ham financially really benefit from this, and I hope Lucas Paqueta does as well, because a hugely talented player on the verge of joining to be champions of England and also winning the Champions League, and he was denied that move because of this investigation. Now, if he's done something wrong, if he's guilty, that's on him. But if he is genuinely innocent and this has happened, I hope them to really go after the FA. But this is why I think it's important. The confirmation that Man City did want to buy Lucas Paqueta, I think is a good thing for a potential future case against the FA. Now, coming up this week, Lucas Paqueta was obviously called up to the Brazilian squad, which he withdrew from. So they played Colombia this week. Obviously, he remained in England, and they're playing Argentina this coming week, which I'm looking forward to. But Lucas Paqueta withdrew from the Brazilian squad because of this hearing, because he wants to give evidence. And that is what is coming up in the next week or so in this hearing. Lucas Paqueta will be given evidence. Not only will Lucas Paqueta be given evidence, David Moyes will be given evidence as well, because he's a key witness. A large part of Lucas Paqueta's defence here is that Bournemouth game, that 4th game in particular, and this is the one I think the card looks worst in. I think Two of them look okay. One of them looks pretty bad, but the Bournemouth one looks really bad. Because let's break it down to what he got booked for. Remove everything for a second. He jumped and punched the ball. Not good. But what Paqueta's defence is, Lucas Paqueta didn't want to play in the game. At the time the Man City thing was happening, Lucas Paqueta went to David Moyes prior to the game, in the build-up to the game, and said, I don't want to play. His head was turned. He wanted to go to Man City. David Moyes, apparently, because this bit is just rumours at the minute, but this is why Moyes has been called as a witness. Apparently Moyes said to him, we're going to play you, but if we're winning comfortably, I'll take you off the pitch. We were winning 1-0. And apparently, during the game, there's footage of Paqueta constantly looking over at the bench to say, am I coming off yet? Can you take me off yet? Am I allowed off yet? Didn't get taken off until the 92nd minute. And in the 91st minute is when he picked up his yellow card. So Paqueta's defence is, well, how can he have done this? He wasn't even meant to be playing. He didn't want to play in the game. Now, of course, I know what you're all thinking. I thought it as well, which is, well, David Moyes told him, you are playing. So he knew he was going to be playing. And even if he was subbed on, say, the hour mark, you can still get booked for West Ham were winning 1-0. I think it's normal for a player to take his time walking off the pitch while being substituted off when the team is winning. So he could have essentially have walked off and just taken his time and made sure to get a yellow card for time wasted. So there is ways he could have picked up the yellow card anyway. But this is why David Moyes has been called as a witness and has agreed to testify in this hearing in defence of Lucas Paqueta to confirm that story is true, that he did not want to play and then he wanted to be substituted. And I imagine there's going to be a bit of a character reference here from David Moyes as well, which will, I imagine he's going to say, don't think he's done this. He's a fantastic player, fantastic professional, fantastic human being. And I think this David Moyes could end up being quite key to lowering the probability verdict of, do you think Paqueta, well, hang on a minute, this guy who, and put your thoughts of David Moyes' football style to one side, is completely irrelevant here. But look at David Moyes' stature in football. He's got an OBE. He's over 1,000 games as a Premier League manager. But David Moyes has a high standing in football, in English football. Whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter. It is irrelevant. He has got a really good standing. UEFA hire him when he's out of work. UEFA take him on to do consultancy work. He goes away and watches games. I can't remember his technical advisor, maybe. I can't remember his exact title. Basically, he's a scout. He goes and watches games and reports back. But David Moyes' stature and pedigree in football is incredible. Having someone like that come into the hearing and give evidence and support you, I think is huge and could end up being pretty crucial to Lucas Paqueta's hearing. Anyway, that is it. That's all that's come out. And like I said, I've tried to apply a little bit of context because the stakes don't seem much, but context is important here. And when you apply the Rio de Janeiro thing, assuming that all these websites are reasonably somewhere realistic, it doesn't look too good. I think the FA are under, this is my opinion, I think the FA are under pressure to make sure he's found guilty, because if he is found not guilty, they've got a tidal wave coming. And I don't think, my concern, frustration with this is that when the hearing comes to an end, which is expected to be 2 weeks from now, is expected to last 3 weeks, we're already a week in now, when the verdict is reached, it's not the end, because if Paqueta's found guilty, I think he'll appeal it, and I think he'll appeal it immediately, and if he's innocent, he should. But likewise, if he's found not guilty, fantastic, but there's more to come, which is Paqueta and West Ham going after the FA. Well, I assume that's what they would do, and like I said, I hope they do, because if someone that's done nothing wrong is caught up in this. Now, a lot of Paqueta's defence, by the way, is based on his poor discipline. Since he came to West Ham United, no one's got booked more than he has in the Premier League with every single player since he joined us in 2022. only 6 players have picked up more yellow cards than Lucas Paqueta. This is a large part of defence. Now, what I would add to that context, the people that were betting on Lucas Paqueta to get booked were his family members. Nobody knows Lucas Paqueta's game better, apart from Paqueta and Moyes. Nobody knows his game better than his relatives. If anyone knows Paqueta's going to get yellow cards and he's petulant, surely it's his relevance, it's his relatives, it's his friends and family. They know what he's like as a footballer. Like I said in the previous video when I covered this, 21% chance. If you bet on Lucas Paqueta to get a yellow card in every single game in his career, from playing in Brazil, for Brazil, in Italy, in France, in England, European competitions, every single game, you had a 21% chance of winning. A lot of people, me, you, a lot of us have made money on Lucas Paqueta getting booked because his disciplinary is pretty poor. And one of the games he's got booked in, he didn't even want to play. And also, he was under investigation at that point for 3 yellow cards that he picked up. Anyway, this week feels like a big one. Lucas Paqueta has given evidence. David Moyes is called up as a star witness. We'll see what unfolds. But hopefully, it leads to a not guilty verdict. Anyway, there you go. That's the latest. I'm off. Please do drop a like on the video. Subscribe to Hammer Chat. Catch you tomorrow.